Okay, so this is the Act of Algeciras, which is, and I'll give just a few minutes of a brief background instead of a whole, hour plus video. But so the Act of Algeciras is a Moroccan treaty, it's Moroccan law. It came from a Moroccan government. Being that it's an Act of Algeciras, right? It doesn't say treaty. In international law, all conventions, acts, and treaties are considered treaties in international law. So this is Moroccan legislation, right? So this is from 1906, in which if we scroll, well, if you see on the screen, I'm not going to read all of that, but you can see all the parties that's involved, right? So again, I'm not going to read through all of that, but you can see Germany, Austria, Belgium, right, et cetera, France, okay. So in which I'll get more into these people that's involved when I make the video on the history of the Act of Algeciras. So the meat of the message, just about a minute or two more just on the history right quick before we get into this highlighted part, this blue section is, well, actually, let me go to this. Let me go to this right quick. This right here on the screen. This is what the Act of Algeciras is about. The Act of Algeciras is about the independence of Morocco. Okay. So if you look at the points, the 4 points, again, this is not in the treaty, this is in the book talking about the act, right? So this is just some support, some history, right quick. To guarantee the future of Morocco as an independent state. So this Moroccan law is to guarantee our independence as a state government. To prevent any one power acquiring commercial and territorial rights and privileges to the detriment of others. So when it comes to basically colonialism, right? Even when it comes to the one government itself trying to um, work on the behalf on others, or trying to basically utilize others as a tool. So there's no such thing as, overthrowing anybody, and how it used to be, as far as, I'm gonna just pass it down to my son who knows nothing about government. It's more aligned. It's more controlled and neutralized. To introduce administrative and financial reforms which would be beneficial to Morocco. So in 1906, this is the time to where international law, when it comes to Morocco, is themselves. Morocco, or the Islamic states, what they call the Barbary states, these weren't what we call modern day states. So what I mean is, by international law today wasn't always the same as it was back then. It's still a growing process because we just now coming on the scene. So when it comes to them administrating financial reforms, at this time, the Islamic states, what they call the Barbary states, or the Morocco itself, they were not operating in the same aspect as today. So how modern states or international law today came about was by way of European states trying to come together and form against the Islamic states or Barbary states, or what we call the Moroccan Empire. So, in which was vast. It was the Moroccan Empire was changing in itself, like time after time and time again. It was really the whole world. But as time changed, um, it came to be what people know it is today for the most part. You know, so when it comes to introducing again these administrative and financial reforms, this was them coming into a modern day state, them trying to say, hey, okay, we'll do business with you because Morocco as a government was falling in 1906. That's what this book is about. It's called the Fall of the Sharifian Empire. So in 1906, when this treaty was about to be established, this was because the the empire was falling, so something had to be figured out. It says to protect European lives and property against sudden fanatical outbursts. So they knew that Morocco, and as far as the pirates and stuff like that, they was on one. So to like to halt all that, as far as the tribes and the tribes in the Kingdom of Morocco and all that, the pirates traveling everywhere, they wanted to make peace, none the least. So this ain't about another government trying to uplift another government. Nah, this is about maintaining peace, right? None the least. So it says its leading provisions were to were the establishment of a state bank, the policing of the coast towns, the limitation of the rights of foreigners to acquire land, to ensure in a manner most beneficial to Morocco the carrying out of all public works. So this treaty was about a state bank, policing coast towns and foreigners, and carrying out public works, right? And public works is an actual lawful term, right? So, which we'll get into later. So, just to give you a background on the treaty, that's what it's all about, as you can see in the highlighted points, right? See the declaration relating to organization of police. So, who do we see today? Policy enforcers, right? Well, how do we start to enact treaties? Well, we got to create a government, a state government, right? That's what our treaties even say, right? So, and if you go to, I'm gonna skip down. Well, I'm not gonna skip down in this video, but in Article 121 of this treaty, it'll tell you that a state bank or a state constitution is needed, meaning that a state government is needed. So that's the specific type of body politic, because a lot of Moors get caught up in, well, we have a government. It's a theocratic government. It's the Moorish Science Temple of America. Well, that's a corporation, a religious organization. It's not that's the type of body politic. It's a religious organization. So it's not a state government. It's a theocratic government, right? Incorporated in somebody else's state government. So that tells you the dominions and values of the types of government right there. Theocratic government, because you're just using religion to disguise everything, right? But you're a religious organization. So it's an organization saying, hey, I'm a government. I can at least do this in your government, right? At the end of the day, we got to say in your government if it's an organization incorporated in the United States of America, no matter what you name it. So when it comes to this treaty, we're talking about the policy enforcers. How do we enact this treaty again? Create a state government. Well, how do you further enact this treaty in our predicament? Well, you got to take USA to court. And what happens after that? ICJ enforces things. What types of things? Our pain points. Things based on this treaty. That's what we're about to get into. How do we know this? A lot of Moors go and get into the relinquishment of jurisdiction. Hey, United States, they relinquished jurisdiction in 1956, right? A lot of Moors know about that. United States relinquished jurisdiction in 1956. Look at this. But the thing is that a lot of Moors didn't read where that decision came from. So if the ICJ or the United Nations made the U.S. do something and they did it, you mean to tell me if we don't continue to follow the steps, they won't continue to do the same thing? I'm not gonna say everything is peaches and cream. It is two sides to everything, which that's why we use counterintelligence, right? That's why we approach the United Nations, right? So, in which they want the United States out of here anyway. Truthfully, if you read the France versus United States of America case. So let's just continue with this. So it's about the policy enforcers, right? A lot of people have problems with their cars and traveling and stuff. Okay, the policy enforcers, right? Regulations on the monitoring and the repression of smuggling of weapons. State bank. A declaration concerning a better output of the taxes. Creation of new incomes. That's new jobs, right? Because how we gonna create a government and we're never working for ourselves? We have to create avenues in which, and this is where the scare comes in for the people who are not, who haven't elected themselves, so called, who have charged themselves up to elect other officials to say, hey, I've elected myself by knowing who I am. Now I elect you to be this part of the government, right? People who are not on that wave basically, or don't understand that, or a part of that, they gonna see everything as a scare, because the United States is gonna be pumping all scare information like, oh, it's falling. No, no more of this, no more of that, no more. Got to do this to do that. It's gonna seem like a force, in which concentration camps and all these people talking about that type of scare, in which all that stuff is just fear. It's just fear. It's not even danger. It's fear, which is not even real. Danger is more real than fear. So, um, when it comes to the new incomes, again, we're talking about in a state bank, and these, think about this. These are the core values, the core principles of the development of a government. Taxes is the one of the main ways a government develops, right? And obviously establishing a bank, a state bank. It says payment on the customs of the empire and repression of the fraud and smuggling. So we're talking about repression of all this human trafficking going on, smuggling, and payment to the empire. That's rent, right? So we're talking about how are we gonna pay ourselves? Well, rent. You see, you got to create the avenues within your government to have these type of establishments, because think about how the United States came into being in their history. According to their history alone, they couldn't even uplift their own government because they had to pay Tunisia, they had to pay Algiers, they had to pay the Kingdom of Morocco, they had to pay them, and then they had to pay everybody. They couldn't even support themselves, right? So therefore, their government couldn't grow. Now, they were in an unlawful standpoint, to where, of course, their predicament was much um, harder, because they couldn't even do business with Great Britain because they was running from Great Britain at the time, right? They had to come to a neutralization, an agreement, some sort of some type of agreement, right? Because this, we'll get into what I'm about to say another time, but a lot of what a lot of weight on the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, etc. You got to remember, if it's between United States and Morocco, United States of America and Morocco, well, they're British subjects. They were British subjects at that time. So we're talking about the value of what at this point. You see, well, we gotta follow subsequent order, and we can't jump too far ahead. just yet. We got to set up ourselves first, focus on ourselves first. Then, you know, begin to do what we know to do. We're growing. So, uh, the last point, it says the declaration relating to the services and public works, having judged that these various documents could usefully be coordinated in only one instrument, okay, in this act. So we're going to start off with the first chapter, which is the organization of the police, right? So just think about, as we read through this, think about all the situations today. Okay, now there's going to be some things to where, um, something like a horse will be mentioned, right? But we got to not only use that actual term, but think of it in comparison as to modern times. Because none of us are riding around taking horses to work, at least not to my knowledge. I don't know. I've never seen that. But unless you're Amish. But so, well, actually, I've seen some videos. I ain't gonna talk about that. So, um, Article 1 of Chapter 1. It says the conference, called by Its Majesty the Sultan, to come to a conclusion about the measurement necessary to the police, declares that the provisions to be taken are the following ones. Okay, so it's just prepare. Article 2. The police will be placed under the sovereign authority of Its Majesty the Sultan. It will be recruited by the Moxen, which is the Moroccan government. That's the name of the officials of the Moroccan government, the Moxen. So they say it will be recruited by the Moxen, or the Moroccan officials, the Moroccan government, among the Moroccan Muslims, will be controlled by the Qaids, Moroccans, and will be distributed in 8 ports open to the trade. Okay, so keep in mind all the various names that's in these treaties. Muslims, right? Moroccans, right? Mox, pick up on the lingo, right? So because in other treaties they name us Muslims. And when you look up the definition of Muslim, what is that? A Muslim. Why is that? Because in this is one thing people gotta understand. When we're talking about making a state government, you know how they say state is a state of mind, right? My state of mind is Allah. My state of mind is Woody Woody Wah. United Salvation of Allah, whatever they say. Whatever, which is they try to abbreviate United States of America in a different way. Try to disguise being a part of that in another way. But they'll say that whatever the religious state is, right? So state of mind, state is state of mind, right? But also in literal law, international law, to be specific, which is the highest state of law, the highest system of law, excuse me. In international law, a state is not only your state of mind, so it's not only your state of mind, but also your actual physical mechanical government. So it's your 3 branches of government, your state constitution, your state flag, your state seal, right? Your inauguration, your documents from your consular courts, right? So when it comes to the state, your state of mind, your religion aspect, right? The divine and national. That's what you call your state. The divine is what you call the religious side. The national is what you call you being a national of your state. So you got to combine the two, in which we say people got confused when we say nation state, meaning, oh, nationality, da da da, but which nationality used to be the Islamic way. It's not the modern international law. because it was once nationality, then it went to nation state, and then it just went to state because state encompasses nation itself. So there's no point in saying nation state, right? So, and that's what I meant by international law is constantly growing, and it's only going to come to a stern point when we come online and not only set our predicament straight, but then show the rest of the world how to set their predicament straight, right? Because it's two sides to everything. So it says to come to assistance with the Article 3. It says to come to assistance with the Sultan in the organization of this police of officer and warrant, officer instructor in Spanish, of officer and warrant, officer instructor French, to be put with its provisions by their government respective, with subject their designation with approval of His Majesty of the Sharifs. A contract signed between the Moxon and the instructor in conformity of payment envisaged with article. So basically what they're saying is that when it comes to the French and the Spanish, because they have French and Spanish zones in Morocco, this land, right? We're not just talking about over there in Africa. Well, actually, that's the Kingdom of Morocco now, right? So um, when we talking about Morocco, we got to not only think about, when you reading the books and stuff like that, talking about this treaty, like the fall of the Sharifian Empire, which came out like 1910 or something, or 1905, I think 1910. So it was like a pretty, immediate eye as far as what was going on, because this act came out in 1906. Noble Drew Ali came out in 1913. You can't tell me he didn't know nothing about this. The only reason more science, I know I'm kind of getting off topic about this article, but the only reason more Science Temple of Americas are not familiar with anything outside of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, which is a Moroccan treaty, this Moroccan law, but that's the only one they're familiar with, right? For the most part. I've never seen anybody talk about any other treaty but that, really. But outside of that treaty, it was purposely taken out because instructions were in the treaty. Now, it's instructions in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship as well, but it's certain type of instructions. It's not how to proclaim nationality like in the Treaty of Madrid. It's not what you got to do to make a state government like in this treaty of the Act of Algeciras. You see what I'm saying? So they left out. They gave you like the middle piece and said, I know you'll be interested in that. That sounds good for y'all, right? Smell like steak, right? I know you're hungry, right? But I'm gonna give you the middle piece, or not. I'm gonna just put it in very straight. I'm gonna give you the part where I'm gonna give you the steak, but it's still frozen, so you can dream about it and just sit there and do nothing with it. Because if you don't know how to enforce it, there's no point, right? So when it comes to us exercising this treaty again, state government, that's the only thing they can exercise. Matter of fact, I seen I'm gonna make a separate video about that. More talking about self-executing treaty, in which we must understand these loopholes. But I'll talk about that another time, because no such thing as a self-executing treaty in international law. So let's see. Okay. So the Spanish and the French, right? They have French zones. And so Article 3 was talking about basically how they're gonna set up the payment with the Moxon, the Moroccan government, right? So Article 4, it says to determine the condition of their engagement and fix their balance, which cannot be lower with double of pay corresponding with rank of each officer or warrant officer. So they're talking about ranking, right? And the pay of the ranking. It will be allocated to them, moreover, a variable local allowance according to the localities. Suitable residents will be placed at their disposal by Moxen. So by the Moxen, by the Moroccan government, right? Which will also provide mountings of fodder necessary. So basically, again, this is all under control of the Moroccan government. That's how much power we're talking about. We're talking about, yeah, you got your police, but at the end of the day, it's under control of the Moroccan government. Limited authority, right? But still, in standpoint of equal opportunity, therefore, because we don't get overthrown. We already have so many ways we can tell just about every nation of how one part has overthrown another part of the Moroccan government, of the Moroccan Empire, excuse me. But in order for it to truly be set in place, what has to be established? Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. What comes first? Love. There's not enough of that going on in international law or around the rest of the world, right? Well, how do we establish love besides just talking about it? Besides just saying energy, spirituality, love, love. Well, we got a treaty of peace and friendship. Peace is the highest state, right? Sounds like love to me. Well, once we enforce, the force be with you, right? We're talking about actual spiritual qualities in law, right? How do we enforce? Once we enforce, we act. How do we act? We enact inward. This is all a spiritual body right in front of our face, right? So enact law is what I mean. So, and what is enacting law? A lot of people could say that's what you call dogma, because what is dogma? By definition, dogma means opinion or principles. Social principles you stand on as a government, your laws as a government, right? That everybody must follow. So think about this on multiple levels. Let's read, right? And after we read this fourth one, I'm gonna tap in with y'all to see if y'all got any questions or comments before we continue. It says the governments to which arose, the instructors reserve the right to recall them and to replace them by others, approved and engaged under the same conditions. The officers and warrant officers will lend for 5 years, 15 years, duration from the ratification of the proceedings of the conference. Their contests with the organization of the bodies of the Sharifian police. They will ensure the instruction and the discipline in accordance with the payment which will be established on the matter. They will also take care that the enrolled men have military serviceability. Generally, they will have to supervise the the administration of the troops and to control the payment of the pay, which will be carried out by the admin or the administration. Assisted of the officer accountable instructor, they will lend to the Moroccans authorities invested command of these bodies and their technical contests for the exercise of this command. So they're talking about basically military serviceability, okay, at equal degrees. Again, all under Moroccan government, because at this time we got to remember that at this time this is 1906, and just to tap into again a little history of why we're talking about equal military service, all this type of stuff. It's like, whoa, it seems like, well, if we ain't talking about colonialism, we sure will make it close, right? We got to understand what's going on in the background because at first, in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, right, it was a different attitude, right? But now, it wasn't equal service debate. We ain't talk about that to those degrees, even though we allowed them to do what they do. Y'all can do what y'all want. But now it's just from a different standpoint. It's almost like neck and neck, right? Because we were falling. Well, what was happening behind closed doors? The Again, the government, the Moroccan Empire was falling. The Sultan had to ask several other governments for money. Because of this, and not only because of this, but for several other reasons, other nations began to invade different parts of the Moroccan Empire, like France when they uh, conquered or they basically became conquistadors to Algiers. So that's how their connection with us started off in one aspect because they was already had their foot in Algiers. So as time passed, right, authority came from different nations into the Moroccan Empire, not only by way of just greed on their end, but there was uh, the Sultan Abdul Aziz. He was not the wisest sultan, let's say that. Because of his decisions, the money for the government went down the drain. Therefore, caused us to need aid, and that aid led to just bigger loopholes and gaps and poor decisions. Government wasn't being established. Pirates are still running rampant, messing up agreements, making it hard for everybody. So we gotta. Okay, so let's just continue. Um, it says the regulations suitable to ensure recruitment, the discipline, the instruction, and the administration of the bodies of police will be stopped by mutual agreement between the minister of the war, of the sheriffs and his delegate, the inspector envisaged in Article 7, the French instructor and the Spanish instructor highest in rank. Okay. So it's talking about the administration, right, of the police by mutual agreement at war. Okay. So now again we have to get more intricate on the war, right? Obviously, neck and neck. So it says the payment, and I'll go into questions or comments here in a second. It says the payment will have to be subjected to the diplomatic corps in Tangier. Why Tangier? Because that's where the the international documents were being deposited at the time, just like today in modern times, the United Nations. Moroccan Empire failed. There's no depositing in Tangier for us anymore, stuff like that. The Kingdom of Morocco became its own government. They left us for dry. There's no talking to the Sultan, which is now really a king of the Kingdom of Morocco. There's no Sultan anymore. He's a king of the Kingdom of Morocco. So they branched off, did their own thing. There's no more working with international law how it used to. You see, because now that left us as stateless people without a state. While the Kingdom of Morocco, they can take all the property, they can take all the, you know, all the credit. That's why when Obama and Hillary Clinton they used to come on talking about thank you Morocco for acknowledging us, and they always talk about over here in Kingdom of Morocco, right in Africa. Well, they created their state government to become third parties to be able to utilize that treaty. but how they did it was sneakily done, right? It was set up. It was out of compromise, and they left us to dry. So when we look at things like the Sundry Free Moors Act, which they say petition the Sultan, a lot of Moors think we still got to petition the Sultan. Well, there is no Sultan anymore. It's a kingdom, the Kingdom of Morocco, and they have their own state government. They have no concern about us. If so, they would have been did something. But international law has grew into a certain fashion in which they purposely kept that. COINTELPRO purposely kept that. So um, it says which will formulate its opinion which within 1 month past this time the payment will be applied. Okay. So are there any questions, concerns, comments, etc. so far? And peace, bro. Okay. Take that as a no. Hope I ain't put y'all to sleep. So it's, I believe it's 12. Yeah, it's 12 articles in this chapter one. And we're at the fifth one. Okay. So so just to freshen up, right? Real quick, 60 seconds. We're talking about the control of the police from the aspect of payment, from the baseline aspects, from the aspect of the French zones and the Spanish zones, right? The rankings, and them still being under the authority of the Moroccan government or the MOX, right? So, Article 5, it says the total manpower of the troops of police will not have to exceed 2,500 men, nor to be lower than 2,000. It will be distributed according to the importance of the ports, by groups varying from 150 to 600 men. The number of the Spanish and French officers will be 100, will be 16, excuse me, to 20. That of the Spanish and French warrant officers from 30 to 40. Okay. And so at the French, we're talking about why 30 to 40 for French, because French were working their way up to be the protectorates, okay, of Morocco, which came in 1912, 6 years after this. So let's just think about this real quick. How realistic is us exercising, right, these 2,500 men, right, et cetera, et cetera. But given that when we're talking about the Spanish and French zones, they're no longer in this aspect, right? It's all in the United States' hand as far as who's using it. But when we talking about in law, well, it's a lot of things is out of law. If France, if French, the France, right, French government, if they're the protectorates over Morocco because of the Treaty of Fez in 1912, and they say, hey, these Moorish subjects, according to Article 6 in that treaty, these Moorish subjects are supposed to be under our protectorate. We're supposed to govern their affairs, not you. So go ahead and give us that list of all these Moorish subjects you got that don't have their own Moroccan government right now. Like these French subjects have their own French government. So go ahead and give us the list of these Moorish subjects in this United States of America government, which don't even sound right. And we can proceed with this treaty. In United States of America, like, nah, basically. So for several reasons, they say in the French versus United States of America court case. So Article 6. Oh, well, let's continue that statement, that concept, right quick. Perception. How realistic? Well, we got to think about what it takes to develop a government, right? Once you take claim, once we take claim, right? It's more state governments all over. Well, once a more state government takes claim, they lawfully have control over all the subjects in that land based on the degrees at hand. So because the United States is acting like the United States of America, and they can never have 10 out of 10 possession, they have what you call 9/10 possession. They'll never have full possession, and they're acting unlawfully. That means as soon as we wake up and do things lawfully, boom, all you got to do is step into position. The power is already there. All you got to do is step into position and work just like that, degree by degree at a time until life begins to change. Life begins to change, right? So these the baseline degrees are things mentioned in this treaty, such as a state bank. We got to have infrastructure, right? We have to build the baselines before we get to thinking about, oh, we don't have a military right now, so that means that we can't do nothing. But we got to remember, this is counterintelligence. This whole war thing that people scared of be talking about, this is not our war to fight. This is not our war to fight. That's for, and I know y'all probably heard Seer talk about it, Seer Dugateers. That's for the so-called sovereign citizens, in which if you don't have a Moroccan state government, then yes, you're deemed as the sovereign citizen if you keep on keeping on. And that's for anybody who call themselves a Moorish American. You see, in which I'm gonna make another video about that again until we. I don't want to be the dead horse, but until we get to where we're supposed to be, well, I'm not about to do no small talk elsewhere, and that's my small talk. How we're not Moorish American, because I'm pretty much over that fact. I'm kind of tired of talking about it, but I'll keep talking about it if I have to. So we talking about, okay, let's get into Article 6, right, and more into reality. We gotta again counterintelligence as we build our way up, because more than 50% of the United Nations don't want the United States where they at today. So let's talk about counterintelligence. It says Article 6. The funds necessary to the maintenance and the payment of the pay of the troops and to the officers and warrant officers, instructors, will be advanced with the treasury of the Sharifs, okay, the treasury, right, by the Bank of State or the State Bank within the limits of the annual budget allotted to the fund, which will not have exceed 2,500,000 pesetas for a manpower of 2,500 men. So we're talking about a certain amount of money for a certain amount of men, right, in the treasury of the State Bank. Okay. So if we talk about this again, we're talking about taking them to court. We recognize we've been acknowledged. Excuse me. We've been acknowledged as, that's the proper term, as a state government, a more state government. We're now talking about what? We're talking about these treaties. We're talking about money, currency, right? What type of currency? Well, that's for us to establish after we create our state governments. We cooperate with other more state governments, and we decide, right? So, but again, that's another story for another time. As you see, so we only on Article 6, and you see how vast just these 6 articles in this chapter, this first chapter, can be. How much is in just one article? So it says the operation of the police will be for the same period of 5 years the object of a general inspection, which will be entrusted by Its Majesty of the Sharifs to a higher officer of the Swiss army, whose choice will be proposed with this approval by the Swiss federal government. The officer will take the title of inspector general and will have his reside in Tangier. He will inspect at once per annum or per year the various body of police, and following these inspections, he will draw up a report/ratio which he will address to the Moxie. Apart from the regular report/ratios, it will be able, if it considers it necessary, to draw up a special report/ratio on any question concerning the operation of the fund, without intervening directly in command or the instructions. The Inspector General will realize of the results obtained by the Sharifian font of the point of view by the maintenance of the law and order in the security of the localities of this police will be installed. So what's going on? This is talking about the Sharifian government. The Moxie will appoint an Inspector General to perform yearly reports, or what they call ratios, on what's going on with these police policy enforcers. So keeping things in check, according to what it says, the Sharifian font of the point of view of the maintenance of the law and order of the security in the localities of this police will be installed. Policy enforcers in your local area, right? So when we talk about create a state bank, well, one reason they'll walk away after you're acknowledged as a state bank, well, that's the trust right there. Boys talk about doing liens and all this types of stuff. Well, look, we ain't gotta look up no U.S. code. That's in their government. That ordinance. We ain't got what they say, how to not pay a bill, and according to what the U.S. say when their laws and their system, that's their laws and their system. That's the United States of America. That's for George Washington and friends. They're the Americans. And what do you want to call it? And just to make it more clear, because the Boris, I just feel like they try to not hear what I'm saying on purpose or something. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship, the Sultan of Morocco, right? And the colonists. Who are the colonists? The Americans, right? So we decided to do business. How do we know this? It's called the Treaty of Amity and Commerce, i.e., the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. This is the basics, right? These are two different parties. If we are all Moors, why in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship does it say Moors and Christians, i.e., the Moors in the United States of America? Or why does it say Muslims and Christians? Or in the original, why does it say Moors and colonists? Because that's what it truly are. That's what they truly are. Colonists. They had colonies. 13 colonies. This is what just common talk. This wasn't a threat. This wasn't it's colonies. The colonists. That's what they are. This wasn't a shot. That's what you did. This is colonies. You have a colony. When they said colony, it wasn't a threat. You didn't sound funny. This is, no, I got a colony. It didn't sound like, oh, that's a shot at you. No, I mean, that's what it is. It's a colony. It's a colony of people. It's a colony, right? Whatever falling line. You're colonists. Now it's all of a sudden get defensive. A lot of people say 13 colonies and don't find that offense, but as soon as you call them colonists, they get offensive. Be like, what? What changed? So when we talking about the United States of America, whether you want to call it Americans, United States of America, it's all the same side of the coin. Just because United States is a organization made under the United States of America doesn't mean that they're somehow totally different. No, they still fall. They just trying to run away from their responsibilities and getting caught up in them. So I had to make that clear because a lot of people try to use every which point to stick with the term Moorish American. Like that ain't COINTELPRO. We can weigh that out with common sense in the treaty. We can weigh that out by saying, hey, why ain't the other treaties around? We can weigh that out by saying, look at Noble Drew Ali's statements, even though some of them ain't even true, because some of them weren't even said by him. Infiltration. Some of them said by the other so-called prophets that tried to take his image after he transitioned. If you ask the people who wrote down the statements themselves, they'll tell you, which is only about four people, like 4 or 5 people. So we got to weigh out the most substantial comments and not just oral statements. Oral statement, you can't go in no court where no Noble Drew Ali said this. What Noble Drew Ali said, based on common sense, is that the half has not been told. How can we weigh that out with common sense? Well, people say Noble Drew Ali bought us everything. He said, take it. Obviously, if you have to take it, if he brought you everything, he has brought everything to the table. That's right. You brought all the things to build a house to the table, but you ain't built the house yet. He has brought you everything. He's redeemed who we are. But what he didn't establish is a Moorish state government. How do we know that? Well, the half has not been told. So he brought you everything, yet the half has not been told. Which one is it? Did he bring you everything? Did he bring you your own government for your freedom that you can enact laws and all this type of stuff? Did he bring you everything? If so, why are we still struggling today? Can't just blame it on COINTELPRO. Can't just point the finger no longer. No, somebody dealing with some cognitive dissonance that person has to be strong enough to be humble enough to see that. So I'm done with my tangent. But so let's go on Article 7. It says the operation of the police will be we read that. Yeah, we read that. Okay. Article 8. The report and communication made with Moxon by the Inspector General about its mission be at the same time given copy with senior and diplomatic courts in Tangier, so that the diplomatic courts be put capable. Note that the police of the Sharifs function in accordance and the decision take prices by the conference and to supervise if the guarantee of the manner effective and conform with the treaty and security of person and of good of national foreign like that of commercial transaction commercials. So basically the report is to go again back to the Moxon uh, and they're to take it to Tangier, they're to make sure it's in conformity with the treaty and in relation to the commercial aspect that's going on. Okay. Again, the treaty of peace and friendship and everything. Or amine and commerce, right? So in the event of the complaints, Article 9, whose diplomatic corps will be seized by interest legation. The diplomatic corps will be able, by warning the representative of the Sultan, to require the Inspector General to make an investigation and to draw up a report / ratio in these complaints for whatever purpose it may serve. So we can draw up complaints. or the inspector general can draw up complaints based on the investigation. Article 10. The inspector general will receive an annual processing of 2,500 FR federal, and I'm assuming I still got to do some studying on that. I'm assuming that's in regards to money, currency. He will be allotted to him, moreover, an allowance of currency. Duh. An allowance of 6,000 FR, and we got to okay, for expenses of rounds. Moxon will place at its disposal a suitable house and will provide for maintenance with its horses. And that's what I was talking about, its horses earlier. How we got to take in modern day aspects, right? So again, we talking about money and we talking about what a Moxon. We're talking about the Moroccan government. Okay. Um, the material conditions of its engagement and its installation, envisaged in Article 10, will make the object of a contract signed between him and Moxon. This contract will be communicated in copy with the diplomatic corps. Article 12. The framework of the instructions of the font Serifian will be Spanish in Teuton, mixed with Tangier, Spaniard, and Larache, French with reduction, mixed with Casablanca, and French in 3 other ports. So it's talking about the organization of what the Moxon or the Sharifian Empire has established in the framework in regards to other places in the empire or in other ports, other zones. Okay, and all that. So it's just talking about the framework. Okay. So again, we got to take in consideration modern time of what's going on. Okay, because once we become our own independent and sovereign state government, we want to keep it that way. So when we talking about all these other nations and their places, well, we got to take in consideration, for example, the France versus United States of America case. Even though France, being that they were the protectors, that's why they took United States of America to court. They protectors over us more subjects, right? They took them to court and basically said, this is the instructions. This is what it takes. And Moroccan government needs to come online. But nonetheless, we're going to make the United States give up their uh, jurisdiction. So boom. In 1952, they went to court. 1956, jurisdiction go. So France did that for us, right? That's a good look. That's something to be thankful for, right? But we also got to look at the whole picture of our relationship personally with France, right? So we have to keep our sovereign and independence. Make sure that's first, not only for yourselves, but for the whole empire, right? As we form and build and reestablish the empire as it should be, literally from the the actual Moroccan Empire, right, where we are on this land, is the new beginning. It's a new beginning. Okay, everything seems like the end. This is how we looking at how everything is set up, the United Nations, how the government is set up. Everything is right there. There's nothing to reinvent. Everything is right there. You look at it, you say, okay, these are the instructions, and I'll take my place. Take your power, full powers of international law. Okay. So um I'll end that video with that. I'll start off in chapter two in another video, and I'll probably read about the history of this act tonight and post that tonight. I'm about to post this one on YouTube. But is there any questions, comments, and anything off topic y'all would like to build or ask about or anything? Nothing. Okay. Dig it, dig it. Um. So yeah, I'll wrap that up here, and I'm about to probably chill out for a second and make another video sometime later on after I gotta get some things established for myself. But
We
yeah, so
appreciate it though.
yeah, no problem, no problem.
I can be more active with questions, which I'll gather next time I'm able to catch one of your lives. But I'm at work right now.
Right on. Yeah, I definitely understand that.
Yeah, man.